The night the walls of Alcatraz felt thinner than they had in decades, a single scrape of metal against concrete became the sound that cracked the prison's legend of perfection. If stories like this fascinate you, hit subscribe, because this one only gets darker. Inside the cold, fluorescent glow of cell block B, the routine was supposed to be unbreakable. Guards prided themselves on precision, inmates were expected to crumble under monotony, and the island itself, isolated, wind-scarred, unforgiving, was designed to crush any thought of escape. Alcatraz wasn't just a prison, it was a message carved into rock: you can enter, but you'll never leave. Frank Morris understood that better than most. He walked in with the kind of intelligence that made officers uneasy, quiet, composed, calculating. He wasn't the type to start fights or brag about charges. He studied. He observed. He adapted. And in a place like Alcatraz, that made him dangerous. Down the tier, the Anglin brothers blended in with the rest of the labor-worn inmates, two men molded by years of small-town struggle and a string of bank robberies. They weren't loud. They weren't reckless. They worked, they listened, they waited. And for months, something began to take shape between them and Morris, an unspoken understanding born from survival instincts sharper than the barbed wire outside. Every night, after the final head count faded into echoing footsteps, the trio moved separately in the dark. A guard walking past their cells would have seen nothing unusual. But behind each vent, a cheap, aging piece of concrete that Alcatraz hadn't bothered to reinforce, tiny fragments of debris lay hidden under cardboard painted to match the walls. Spoons stolen from the cafeteria became chisels. A small motor taken from a prison vacuum became a crude drilling tool. The work was slow, deliberate, and nearly invisible. The island had its own personality. The fog wrapped around the prison like a second set of bars. The wind carried the metallic tang of salt water through the corridors. At night, the bay churned with a cold vengeance that had claimed countless lives. Escape wasn't just unlikely, it was suicidal. But Morris wasn't chasing freedom. He was chasing proof that the institution built to break men could be broken instead. Rumors drifted through the tiers. Someone heard tapping behind a wall, someone else swore they saw a guard go pale after a miscount, and another inmate whispered that the Anglins were crafting something in the laundry room that didn't look like clothing repair. Alcatraz thrived on paranoia, but paranoia had a way of getting ignored when the system trusted itself too much. One night, during a quiet hour even the guards found unsettling, Morris listened to the hollow space inside his wall open just a little wider. The vent shifted. The air felt different, lighter, colder, alive with possibility. He pressed his hand against the gap and felt the draft from the hidden corridor behind the cells. It was the first time the prison breathed back. And it was the moment he knew the plan was no longer theory. The wall was open. The countdown had begun. The deeper the trio slipped into their secret, the more Alcatraz revealed the cracks in its own armor. The prison's reputation said it was impossible to escape. The prison's reality said no one had ever tried hard enough. Behind the cell walls, the hidden service corridor felt like another world. Damp air. Dust thick enough to taste. Pipes rattling like bones in the dark. Morris moved through it with the certainty of a man who'd been waiting his entire life for a moment exactly like this. The Anglin brothers followed silently, communicating with quick glances and small gestures, as if speaking might wake the whole island. Every night, they pushed deeper into the prison's blind spots, places guards never checked, places the original architects likely assumed no inmate would ever reach. They used stolen screws, cafeteria glue, and strips of scrap metal to reinforce their work. They had every tool in a series of makeshift compartments carved into the concrete. Each decision was calculated down to the inch. But while the corridor offered opportunity, the cell block offered pressure. Alcatraz had its own social order, one built on tension more than violence, on silence more than threats. On the yard, men watched each other too closely. In the mess hall, the smallest slip of expression could spark questions. And in the workshop, where the Anglins spent hours patching uniforms, the wrong guard could walk in at the wrong time. A rumor took root: someone's planning something big. It drifted through the population like smoke. No one knew where it started. No one dared claim it. But eyes lingered longer than before. A few inmates leaned in during chow, offering quiet warnings. A guard near the showers started counting inmates twice. Another guard, known for his temper, tapped his baton against cell doors with a slower, heavier rhythm. Morris felt the pressure tightening around them. He could sense the shift the way a man senses a storm rolling in before the first drop hits the ground. But backing out wasn't an option, not now, not after months of carving through concrete and assembling a raft from dozens of stolen raincoats stiffened with homemade glue. Keeping control meant keeping the rhythm steady. Move at night. Blend during the day. Trust no one. Show nothing. Then came the breaking point. During a late inspection, a guard paused at John Anglin's cell longer than usual. His flashlight beam hovered over the cardboard vent cover, painted perfectly, positioned perfectly. But the light held, unmoving, as if the guard sensed the slightest difference in texture or color. John didn't blink. He breathed once, slow, and kept his eyes fixed on the opposite wall. The guard finally moved on. But the moment carved itself into all three men. They were no longer hiding a plan, they were racing against detection with everything at stake. And just when the tension threatened to snap, Morris discovered something wedged behind an old pipe in the service corridor, a rusted metal bracket that didn't belong, a piece of the prison's infrastructure weakened far more than the officials ever knew. He tapped it once and realized the truth. The route to the roof wasn't just possible. It was already halfway open. The night of June 11th arrived with a restless wind that clawed at the walls of Alcatraz like something demanding to be let in, or out. Fog rolled across the yard in slow, heavy sheets, swallowing the island 1 inch at a time. Inside cell block B, the final lights dimmed. Doors locked. Silence settled. And 3 men prepared to disappear. Frank Morris waited for the guard's footsteps to fade into the familiar rhythm of the overnight shift. When the moment came, he lifted the dummy head, soap, toilet paper, flesh-colored paint, and hair stolen from the barbershop floor, and placed it carefully on his pillow. In the faint glow of the corridor, it looked real enough to pass from any angle. The Anglin brothers did the same. 3 fake heads. 3 empty beds. 3 men slipping into the walls. The service corridor felt colder than usual, as if the prison itself realized something was happening and could do nothing to stop it. They moved in silence, crawling past pipes and rusted brackets, hauling the last pieces of their stolen supplies toward the vertical shaft that led to the roof. The vent cover above them, loosened weeks earlier, gave way with a soft crack that vanished into the storm outside. For the first time, they saw the open sky. Rain hit the roof in sharp diagonal lines. The wind tore at their prison uniforms like claws. But none of them hesitated. They crossed the slick surface with the careful urgency of men who knew hesitation would kill them faster than the cold. Below, the bay churned with violent currents. The water was nearly freezing. The fog was thick enough to erase the horizon. No one sane would attempt a crossing. But sanity had nothing to do with it. This was survival. They dragged the handmade raft, dark rubber stitched together from raincoats, onto the edge of the island. The material shuddered under the weather, but it held. Morris tested the seams one last time, pressing his fingers into the glue they'd mixed using stolen industrial materials. Good enough wasn't good enough. It had to be perfect, or it would become a coffin. With no speeches, no goodbyes, no second thoughts, the 3 men pushed the raft into the black water and climbed in. The storm swallowed them whole. By sunrise, Alcatraz erupted into panic. Head counts failed. Cells were checked and rechecked. Guards shouted over each other. The FBI was summoned. Helicopters scanned the water. Boats combed the currents. But the bay offered no answers, only fragments. A paddle later washed ashore. A few pieces of rubber. Nothing definitive. Nothing that proved life or death. The world wanted certainty, but all it got was possibility. Did they drown? Did they reach land? Did 3 men outsmart the most secure prison in America and vanish into new lives? The truth stayed where it always had, somewhere between the island, the water, and the silence that followed. And Alcatraz, the place built to crush escape dreams, was forced to live with the one escape it could never explain. If you think this story was intense, the next one will leave you speechless. Subscribe for more true crime stories that'll keep you on the edge of your seat.